Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Artvin and Aydın in Turkey. But a quick note first, because I'm going through every region of the world in alphabetical order, and some of you who watch consistently might be wondering why I went from, I think, the AYs to the ARs. Yeah, AYs, because we're going to Aydın next. And that is because I left Artvin out of my list. I compiled the list that I'm going off of in 2020 and early 2021. And I made a lot of mistakes. I just found out like 2 weeks ago that I left out the entire country of Mali. Whoops. Which thankfully their first region doesn't start until the B's. I think we'll talk about them in like September or October. So I've made many mistakes in this list. Also, things have changed in some countries, especially Azerbaijan right over here. Latvia's changed, Ethiopia is going to change later this year, I think. So mistakes happen, and I left out Artvin, and thank you to the person who commented. I think you forgot Artvin because you were 100% correct. And then I looked through the regions of Turkey to double check, and it turns out that I had left out Aydın in my list too. So if it wasn't for you, commenter, I would have left out 2 regions of Turkey, and that would have been really bad. So I have a lot of Turkish viewers who are also wonderful, and I don't want to leave any of you out. So, just to say, if you are watching this and you think I might have left out a region, please leave a comment letting me know so I can double check my list. Okay, I'm counting on you guys to help me out. I appreciate you all so much. So with that being said, we're going to talk about Artvin because I forgot it, and Aydın because it's next in the list. We're going to start off with going over Artvin because Aydın is way over on the other side of the country, and I gotta change my camera angle to film it. What is on my finger? What is that? A little piece of my headphones, I think. Anyway, so we're gonna talk about Artvin first. So, Artvin, we're like almost 3 minutes. Artvin is incredibly mountainous. It is mostly dominated by the Pontic Mountains, which pretty much cover almost the entire of Turkey's North Black Sea coast. This is the Black Sea up here. There is a little coastline, but Artvin doesn't have like beaches and resorts and things. They're going to talk about that in Aydın. One of the perfect things about this is that Artvin and Aydın are completely opposite in every way. It's so perfect. We're going to talk about the many aspects of Turkish history today. I'm talking about these 2 regions. So yes, very mountainous, with the Çoruh River slicing through. Here it is. Slicing through, creating these beautiful valleys, beautiful rock formations, even fairy chimneys at some points. And that's where we find the city, or I guess town. I'm not sure, it's not very big compared to other Turkish cities. I guess the city of Artvin here, carved into the mountainside there. It's so pretty. I'll show you on Google Earth after we talk about Aydın. It also borders Georgia here, which, if you're not very geography savvy, I'm not talking about the U.S. state of Georgia. I'm talking about the nation, who in English is called Georgia. It's called Sakartvelo in Georgian. And that's very important to its history because there are many Georgians who live in this area. Not like, what am I trying to say? Not like they are from Georgia living here, although they could be, but like ethnically Georgian, I mean. Not like they're illegally hopping over, which, I mean, maybe they are. I don't know. I'm not judging. I'm not talking about that tonight. But the history of this area in a nutshell is that it has been conquered and reconquered and conquered and reconquered over and over and over again. I think the earliest kingdom would have been the kingdom of Colchis, which was an Armenian kingdom. Armenia is just over here. Later, it would have been ruled over by the kingdom of Iberia. And don't get that confused with the Iberian Peninsula. Two completely different things. Very similar names. Eventually, it would have been ruled over by the Georgians and their various kingdoms, but they fought with many different Muslim powers for control of this whole area for many, many decades. Obviously, this is in more modern times because we have Islam. So talking about the 900s, the 1000s, the 1100s, around then. In particular, there were the Georgian Seljuk Wars, which lasted from about 1048 to 1213, vying for control over the whole area with the Seljuks. There were lots of different Muslim groups that fought, but I think the Seljuks were the primary instigators. But soon it would be the Ottomans, which was basically what the Seljuks would slowly morph into over the years. They had completely conquered the area by 1551, incorporating it into the Ottoman Empire. And next on the list of conquerors would have been the Russians. And this was a battleground during the various wars between the Ottomans and the Russians. The Russians would take over for a couple chunks of time. The Ottomans would win it back. And it went back and forth pretty much until 1878 when it became fully Russian. Sorry, I'm stuck to my page there. It became fully Russian by 1878. It would be handed back to, I guess, the Ottomans at that point. Yeah, the Ottomans. In 1918, during the Russian Revolution, since the Russian kingdom, Tsardom, had collapsed, was taken over by the communists, and they rearranged the entire government structure and their borders and everything, and you can see their line was right near here, right? But this line, I believe, was drawn by the British, because the Ottoman Empire did not last much longer after that. It fell apart at the end of World War I, and all of the lands that was owned by the Ottomans was divided up between the Allies, the powers that did win World War I. So the British came into this area to reorganize and restructure, along with a Georgian a Georgian force. I should note that between this time there was a very large Armenian population. By the end of World War I, there was not. And I think you know why. For reasons that would probably get me demonetized and make people uncomfortable. But it would have been the Armenian genocide during World War I when they were displaced. And, all of those horrible things. But we're moving on. So it was majority Georgians and Turks, right? Britain would hand this area over to what would become Turkey in 1921 with the Treaty of Kars, and it's been part of Turkey ever since, and it's a very quiet little corner of Turkey, again with a very large Georgian minority living here. And I think what's most interesting about this region, other than the gorgeous mountainous landscape, is the diversity of the religions that left their mark on here, because we had Armenian churches, we had Russian Orthodox churches, mosques, of course, Georgian churches, things like that. And of course, when I say mosques, I mean the various styles of mosques, because the Ottomans had a particular mosque style. The Caucasus area, that's primarily Muslim, mainly like Azerbaijan now. Parts of Georgia have their own beautiful style of mosques, which you can find here. It's really interesting to see all the different religious buildings. But unfortunately, most of them aren't really on Google. I've seen most of them on like Google Images, so I'd encourage you to Google that, just so you can see all the pretty former monasteries the Georgians built, the old Ottoman mosques, things like that. It's really interesting. And I think with that being said, I'm going to change the angle and we're going to head over to the Mediterranean coast to look at Aydın. So here we are in Aydın, which I kind of messed up the borders that I drew here. I apologize. I think it's finally time to sharpen this pencil. I've had this pencil, gosh, since I was in college. I bought a box of pencils and this is the last surviving one. So it's probably has not been sharpened, gosh, since probably like 2012. It might be time because it's starting to mess up my maps. But anyway, Aydın, you can kind of see there. Aydın, which, I mean, in English it looks like Aydın, but I promise you it's Aydın. So Aydın, very, very different. There are some mountains in the area. I think a branch of the Taurus Mountains on the southern part of Anatolia. But this area, very different. First of all, we have the very gorgeous, luxurious Mediterranean coastline, which is filled with lots of beautiful beach resorts, mainly in, I gotta make sure I'm doing this right. There we go. Kuşadası here. And down here, it's not on my map, but it's called Didim. But there's resorts all along the coast here and all along the coast here. There's a beautiful national park here. It's very hard to see on the map. It's the Didik Peninsula. Reaches out almost touching the Greek island of Samos here. It's just a hop, skip, and a jump away. But the interior, which has beautiful rivers flowing through here, is very agrarian. They grow lots of figs here, is what the area is known for, along with lots of other like Mediterranean crops, I suppose you'd call it. But what really makes the area stand out are its ancient relics, old Hellenistic, I should say, cities and towns. We have Miletus over here. We'll look at that on Google Earth. And there's a city down kind of around here, it's not on my map, called Aphrodisias, which is a UNESCO site. So let me grab my tablet so we can read about it. There are loads of other Hellenistic ruins along the coast. These are just the ones in Aydın. Let me make sure I've got the whole thing there for you. Okay. I think that's good enough. There we go. Aphrodisias, located in southwestern Turkey in the upper valley of the Morsinus River. I hope I'm saying that right. I didn't look up pronunciation. The site consists of two components: the archaeological site of Aphrodisias and the marble quarries northeast of the city. The Temple of Aphrodite dates from the 3rd century BCE, and the city was built 1 century later. The wealth of Aphrodisias came from the marble quarries and the art produced by its sculptors. The city streets are arranged around several large civic structures, which include temples, a theater, an agora, and 2 bath complexes. We will look at this on Google Earth because the site is very, very fascinating, but you can see some pictures here. There's a museum, of course, right next to it. Oop, the rest didn't load. Maybe I'll refresh the page. And the museum is chock full, there we go, of really cool statues, because like it says, there's a marble quarry nearby. There's lots and lots of cool marble artwork in the museum, but you can see how much of the city is still standing. I mean, not a lot, obviously, but for an ancient ruin, that's pretty good. Not bad at all. Very, very cool. So let's talk about its history, because like Artvin, this area was conquered probably even more frequently than Artvin was. at least in its ancient history, not so much in modern times. So, dating back, long ago, we have, I said, Miletus here. That was a town established by the Minoans, which was one of the precursors to ancient Greece. One of the ancient civilizations that would eventually collapse, but is from the time that many Greek myths and stories comes from, is from the Minoan period. Or about the Minoan period, I should say. It came from they were told during the Mycenaean period, which would come next. They'd flourish on the Anatolian coast here, including here. And the Mycenaean civilization would eventually collapse, and after the Dark Ages would lead to the ancient Greek civilization, which again flourished here along the coast. The area was eventually conquered by the Persians. I'm checking my notes real quick. I didn't mention the Thracians. Many Thracian towns were more inland, and Thrace is part of northern Greece. So still Greek, but particularly Thracians would have lived more inland in the farming areas. The Persians would have come and conquered, and they would eventually have been defeated by Alexander the Great, who would bring Hellenism back to the area for many years. The Seleucids and all of those before being eventually conquered by the Romans and becoming a Roman province. That would, of course, become the Byzantine Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire, since Constantinople, now Istanbul's just north over there. And they came into conflict with the Seljuks, kind of like over in Artvin. But this area was a big battleground between the Byzantines and the Seljuks and really ruined a lot of the inland areas here. It pretty much made it uninhabitable. Eventually the Ottomans would conquer and build it back up, only for it to be ruined once again when Tamerlane, the heir to the Mongol Empire, would come conquering in the area, and they would battle here again and lay waste to the towns once again. The Ottomans reigned in this area from 1425 until 1919. Again, because the Ottoman Empire collapsed, and the Ottomans were no more. But there was still a big Turkish power here, particularly in this period of time, because this is the era, this very interesting, historically interesting era between the fall of the Ottoman Empire and the establishment of independent Turkey, where the Turkish revolutionaries were fighting for their independence and their freedom, at first from the Ottomans and then from the Allied powers. And in this corner, they were fighting against the Greeks. That would be the Greco-Turkish War that lasted, I believe, until 1922. I want to say the very early 1920s. Because, like I said, the Allies had divvied up the Ottoman Empire, and the Allies had said that the Greeks could have a majority of Anatolia. The Turkish revolutionaries said absolutely not, and they fought a very long, very arduous, devastating war, including a big battle here in the region and many battles also. In particular, this part of Turkish history is known for the Efe, or the Zeybeks, which were guerrilla fighters who fought for Turkish independence, and they're very much glamorized in Turkish history today. So eventually, independent Turkey would take over the area by 1922. The problem was that there were many Greeks that lived here, and the animosity between the Turks and the Greeks was extreme. I mean, it still is today, but at that point it was intense. So what both countries agreed to do was to swap populations. Any Greeks living in what's now Turkey would move to Greece. Any Greeks or any Turks living in Greece would move back to Turkey. And that occurred in 1923 and really affected this area because it's literally Greece is right there, right? So that was a very big population exchange. Sorry, I gotta slow down. Exchange. Very tumultuous time in Greece and Turkey's history. I would say when I was looking through Google Earth at the areas here, I'm like, oh, it looks kind of Greek in some parts. Like, it reminds me of like Greek resorts, Greek islands. But don't say that when you're here in Turkey because they would be very, very offended. Don't say that when you're in Turkey. Don't say, wow, this looks Greek. That's a bad idea. But in a nutshell, that is the very long and interesting history of Aydın, the Aydın region here. So, with all of that being said and done, let's head over to Google Earth so we can look at Artvin and Aydın. Alright, we're going to head back to Artvin province, and I'm going to start by zooming out so you can see exactly where we are in the world. So here is Turkey, this big, where's my pencil? That always helps. Oh, wrong pencil, but that works. It's a mechanical pencil. This huge piece of Turkey here is known as Anatolia, just its ancient Greek name. And we are in like the farthest eastern part of Anatolia that you can go before you hit the Caucasus region. And you can see the mountains here and how much they cover pretty much the entirety of Artvin here. I'll even show you the coastline. You can see this is Hopa. At least that's how I hope you pronounce it. That's I believe from what I've seen in research, the largest city on the coast here in Artvin. And yeah, there are, harbors and docks and things like that, but it's not really a beachy kind of town, so to say. Nothing like Aydın is. You can see the warehouses, factories here. And mainly because the mountains are like right there. Like, if I go, where's a good example? I guess like over here you can see this main road here, and that's a mountain cliff. It reminds me of California on Highway 1. Well, okay. In Northern California, we call it Highway 1. In Southern California, they call it either the 101 or the PCH. You will never hear that in Northern California. But it's basically a freeway that goes along the coast, but you have big rocky cliffs on one side and the ocean on the other. So it reminds me a lot of that. It reminds me of driving down Highway 1. But these are like actual mountains, and this is the Black Sea, not an ocean. But if we head over to Artvin, you can really see the kind of culture that is in this area. I lost it. Oh my goodness, where did it go? Oh, it's down. I just gotta follow the river. It's down here. There's a big dam. Here we go. Oh, that's just the pin for Artvin province. It's a big dam. And Artvin's right there. My goodness. See, like I said, not like a big, massive Turkish city like you would expect. It's big, but look how quaint this is. It's built into the mountainside here. Very hilly and slopey, I imagine. But how picturesque is this town? Oh, that's gorgeous. All the zigzaggy mountain roads. Like we're in like the Andes or the Himalayas or something. They're that steep. Here's the river. And up here's the big dam I was talking about. Look at these cliffs here. Make sure I'm not getting lost. Am I going the wrong direction? I think so. Am I backwards now? I'm just a mess. Goodness, goodness, goodness. Okay. Yes, okay. There we go. Now I lost it again. I'm a mess. Okay. Let's just do this. Artvin. Just take me to the town. Just pin the town. There we go. So I don't lose it. Maybe I was going the right way when I started. There it is. Big dam up here, damming the river. Which when I was researching, when I would search about the Choru River, it would just really give me information about the dam. And it was like, well, I guess that's the only interesting fact about it, other than it creates this gorgeous landscape here. Let's look at this park and you can see what it looks like. Someone's built one of these terrible things that I hate, these clear walkways that go over cliffs. It gives me anxiety just thinking about it. I'm not a fan of those. Look at that. You couldn't pay me to go on that. But the mountains are absolutely gorgeous. Look at this. It looks like the basalt columns in the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, doesn't it? Probably the same exact type of formation. Yeah, that's horrendous. No, thank you. But the landscape's gorgeous. Look at these little, in America we call them Lincoln logs. Little Lincoln log houses. That's what they look like. All these gorgeous rock formations. Beautiful flowing river here, creating all kinds of gorgeous lakes and waterfalls throughout the area. I think I found another pretty slideshow down here in the south. I just have to remember where it was. There are lots of interesting slideshows. I think it was this mountain here. Lots of interesting slideshows, but they get kind of redundant because I can only show you big, cool mountains so many times. But there's a Turkish flag on top of this one. I'm pretty sure this is the highest peak in the region. Beautiful lakes and things. Lots of snow. Little quaint villages. Kind of reminds me of like Switzerland. Doesn't it look like that? Like the Alps almost. Beautiful, beautiful waterfalls are all throughout the area. So yeah, I would encourage you very much to play around here on Google Earth because there's lots to see. But there's even more to show you over in Aydın. So let's head over there to Aydın. That's going to take me to the city. I'd have to type in Aydın region, but we're going to look around. So here's the city of Aydın. Let's look at the slideshow, see what we've got. Very gorgeous. Big old mosque there, of course, because here we are in Turkey, and it's quite luxurious in this province. Big pretty mosque. Big old buildings. Pretty much what I read about, like, things to see, because like I said, the city was destroyed and rebuilt many times, is that there's still a lot of really cool Ottoman architecture here in the city. So it's a lot more modern than you would expect it to be. Very cool. But what I really want to show you is the ancient stuff, right? So let me see if I remember where Aphrodisias is. Let's see if I get lost again. Kind of have to zoom out. Or, let me try to type in Aydın province. Aydın. Is it province? Region? What do they call it in Turkey again? No, I thought it was province. That's just gonna take me to the city. Yeah, okay. Anyway, it's all through here. You can see this very lush green valley cutting through the mountains here. If I zoom out, you can see the Mediterranean Sea and the Greek islands are just a hop, skip, and a jump away. You can see Athens over there, which I recently covered on my channel. Let's see if I can find Aphrodisias on my own. I think it's down here. It's in like very south of the region. Hello. No, I'm gonna get lost. Let's type it in. Aphrodisias. Giro, that was the name of the town. No, I was way off. Holy moly. Oh, I've been looking for ages. Okay. So, I'm going to zoom out first because this is the museum here. And over here is the town, which you can see where they did chariot races. You can see the theater here. All kinds of remnants. And then over here is, there's another theater here. This is where the, that was not it. Where is it? Sanctuary of Aphrodite. This is where the Aphrodite temple was. So let's look at the slideshow here so we can see some of these cool pictures. Like, look at that. Not bad for Greek ruins, right? Like, you're not going to find any perfect ruins. But not bad for how well preserved it's been, especially since this region has been through so many tumultuous battles, right? Let's take a look at the museum. Look at that. I wonder if that's the marble quarry. I bet it is. It being a Greek museum, there's going to be a lot of nude men. So just fair warning. Actually, I think that was in a different museum. But there's probably nude men in here too. But I just don't want YouTube to demonetize me for showing nudity. I think it was in Miletus's museum where you see just like complete out and about stuff like that. But fascinating, right? I told you so many sculptures, so many statues, so many works of art, all carved so intricately. Very, very cool. Let's take a look at Miletus while we're talking about ancient sites. Let me zoom out all the way and head over here. Miletus was a huge, thriving city for a very long time. Now I'm going to lose it. It was up here. Somewhere around here. Darn. Okay, I can't find anything tonight. I'm not gonna risk it. Miletus. It's all in my recent history. Yep, I had to go a little farther north. Alright, so you can really see the old city borders here. Their baths, the market, the agora, they would have called it. But here's the museum. It's the artifacts that are left behind there. The big theater. And very old. This looks maybe Minoan. Because it doesn't look Greek at all, right? Many of the old complexes left. Lots of artwork. Dioramas showing how people once lived. Big aerial shot there. Look at all the coins. Very, very cool. Lots of maps to see. Pottery, of course. Very iconic Greek culture. Very old buildings. Look at these. Very awesome. That would be a place to see. Ephesus is not terribly far from here either, which is probably the most famous ancient Greek city in what's now Turkey. But let's go relax at some beaches. Here is Didim. And this beach, I think, was my favorite beach that I saw in this area. Because it just looks fun. This is my kind of beach. Warm sand, gorgeous water. Big statue of Poseidon. You can't go wrong there. him guarding over the area, protecting it. And yeah, swimming in the water. I love swimming in the sea. And it's the Mediterranean, so you know it's gonna feel fantastic. All sandy, all nice. You can relax, you can swim, you can play. All these wonderful things, right? That's my kind of beach. That looks like fun. Probably the big resort town is up here. This is Kushadasi. Kushadasi. And I would show you pictures of the beaches. They're all very similar. But you can see from above all of the resorts and luxury living, rich people's summer homes, I assume. Lots of big resort areas. And I was just going like, how far does this go? And I'm just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and it's more resorts, more resorts, more resorts, more resorts. I kept going like, holy moly, this place is completely decked out. My goodness. It just keeps going. So many. So yeah, this is the place to be honest. You saw the water parks I went past. You know I'm a water park enthusiast. It just keeps going and going and going. But we're gonna end our slideshow down here in this national park. There's the Didik Peninsula there, and you can see this is Greece, literally right here. Literally just past here, you have Greece. But this is all gorgeous natural area here. Let's put in 3D real quick. You can see these peaks. Isn't that beautiful? All green and lush down here. Let's look at the slideshow while I end the video. So thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this style of content, please consider subscribing. This is an ongoing series on my channel, as I talked about in the beginning. Next, we're going to head over to Myanmar, which I haven't covered on my channel yet. We are going to see the most famous river system in Myanmar, the Irrawaddy. I think second only to the Mekong in Southeast Asia in terms of mighty rivers. And we'll see lots of cool temples and stupas and things like that. So be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a good night. Let me find Artvin one more time all on my own. Is it going to disappear for me? No, it's right here. Of course, now I find it with no problem. Good night. Good night. Good night.